You have everything you are supposed to have. A job, a routine, people around you, a life that from the outside looks completely fine. But something is wrong. Not broken, not sad, just empty. Like you are watching your own life play out from behind a glass wall. You smile when you are supposed to smile. You show up. You keep going. But quietly, somewhere deep inside, there is a hollow feeling you cannot name and cannot explain. And the worst part is, you cannot even justify it because nothing is actually wrong. So you start to wonder if maybe something is wrong with you. But here's what nobody ever tells you. That feeling you are carrying right now, that quiet, nameless emptiness, it is not a symptom of weakness. It is not depression. It is not ingratitude. It is one of the rarest psychological states a human being can experience. And most people on this planet will live and die without ever feeling it at all, because feeling it requires a level of awareness that most people simply do not possess. You are not the problem. You never were. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why you feel this way, what it reveals about the kind of person you truly are at your core, and the one idea from Albert Camus that will completely rewire how you see yourself, your emptiness, and your entire life going forward. Stay with me, because what I am about to share with you is something most people go their entire lives without ever understanding. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Let me start with something that might shock you. Psychology has a term for people who feel deeply but cannot explain why. People who sense something is off about the world around them even when everything looks fine on the surface. People who feel emotions that do not have names. They call it high psychological sensitivity. And for decades, researchers thought it was a flaw, a vulnerability, something to be managed or medicated or suppressed. They were wrong, because what they eventually discovered is that this kind of sensitivity is not a glitch in your wiring, it's an upgrade. It is what allows certain rare people to see through illusions that others cannot even detect. It is what allows you to feel the hollow silence underneath a perfectly good life and know, without being able to explain it, that something deeper is missing. The average person does not feel what you feel, not because their life is better, but because their awareness does not go that deep. You feel it because you cannot turn off the part of your mind that asks real questions. And that's exactly where Albert Camus comes in. Camus was not a typical philosopher. He did not sit in a quiet room writing theories nobody reads. He lived hard. He watched people break. He watched people pretend. He sat inside the wreckage of the 20th century, surrounded by war, loss, moral collapse, and a world that had completely stopped making sense, and he refused to look away from any of it. And in the middle of all that chaos, he noticed something nobody around him was willing to say out loud. He called it the absurd. Here is what it means. Every single human being is born with a deep hunger, a hunger for meaning, a hunger for purpose, a need for life to make sense, for the things you do to matter, for there to be a reason you are here. That hunger is not something you develop over time. You did not learn it. It came with you. It is hardwired into the deepest layer of who you are. That hunger never goes away. It is in you right now as you watch this. But the world does not answer it. You search for meaning, and the world stays completely silent. You work hard and still feel hollow. You achieve the thing you were chasing and feel nothing when you get there. You sit in a room full of people and feel completely alone. You get the relationship, the apartment, the salary, the recognition, and something inside you quietly whispers, "Is this it?" That gap, that aching, yawning space between what your soul desperately needs and what the world actually gives you, that is the absurd. And that emptiness you feel, that hollow, nameless weight you carry, that is not depression, that is not weakness, that is not something broken inside you. That is you being fully, completely, and painfully human. Most people never feel this because most people never think deeply enough to feel it. Their awareness stays on the surface. They consume, they react, they follow the script society handed them and never once question who wrote it. You feel it because you are not most people. And that awareness, as uncomfortable as it is the first sign that you are capable of something most people are not. Now here is where it gets important, because Camus did not stop at identifying the problem. He went further. He asked the question most people are too afraid to even form in their own minds. If life has no built-in meaning, if the universe is not going to explain itself to you, if the silence is permanent, then what do you actually do with the one life you have? He identified 3 ways people respond when the emptiness hits. 3 psychological patterns. And when I explain them, you are going to recognize people you know in every single one. The first response is complete surrender. Camus called this philosophical cowardice. Not because life is not painful, it is, but because this response lets the emptiness win. It says the void is too big and I am too small, and there is no point in continuing. This is the person who stops trying, who goes numb on purpose, who slowly disappears from their own life. You might have touched this place before. Most deeply aware people have. The second response is what Camus called philosophical suicide. This is the most seductive trap of all. This is when you grab onto something, a belief system, an ideology, a relationship, a career identity, a tribe, a cause, and you say, "This is my meaning," and you stop asking questions. You stop feeling the emptiness because you have filled it with something certain. It feels like peace. It looks like stability. But Camus said it is not peace. It is sedation. You traded the discomfort of truth for the comfort of certainty. You stopped living consciously and started living on autopilot behind a different kind of wall. And here is the dark psychology of it. This is exactly what cults exploit, what manipulative relationships exploit, what extremist ideologies exploit. They find people who are drowning in the emptiness of the absurd, and they offer them a pre-packaged answer, a ready-made identity, a clear enemy, and a clear purpose. And the person grabs it because anything feels better than the void. Understanding this pattern is not just philosophy, it is psychological armor. The third response is denial, and this is where most people on Earth are living right now. They stay busy, they scroll for hours without knowing why. They drink, they chase the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. They fill every second with noise, movement, stimulation, so they never have to sit alone in silence with the hollow feeling inside them. They are running from themselves every single day, and they will keep running until they die, and on the day they die, that hollow feeling will still be there, untouched, unexamined, undefeated, because you cannot outrun what lives inside you. Camus said all 3 of these responses are wrong. Not morally wrong, psychologically wrong. They all fail because they all avoid the real confrontation. And then he offered something almost nobody chooses. He called it revolt. Not anger, not rebellion against people or systems or governments. Not nihilism, not destruction. Revolt against the absurd itself. Here is what it looks like. You know life has no built-in meaning. You know the silence is not going to break. You know nothing is guaranteed and nothing is permanent. You know the boulder rolls back down, and you live anyway, fully, consciously, without pretending, without sedating yourself, without running. You do not need the universe to tell you that you matter. You decide that you matter. You do not wait for external validation to begin. You face the emptiness directly. You do not look away. You stand in the middle of it without flinching, and you choose by your own will to move forward. This is the psychological state that makes certain people completely unbreakable. You have met people like this, people who have been through loss, failure, betrayal, things that should have destroyed them, and they came out the other side, not just intact, but somehow more alive than before, more grounded, more real, like they have a quiet power in them that the people around them cannot quite explain. That power is revolt. They stopped running. They turned around and faced the thing, and in facing it, they stopped being controlled by it. To explain this, Camus used one of the most psychologically precise images in all of human thought, the myth of Sisyphus. Sisyphus was condemned by the gods to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity. Every single time he reached the top, it rolled back down, and he had to walk back down and begin again, forever. No end, no progress, no reward, just the boulder and the hill and the endless repetition of meaningless labor. The gods designed this as the ultimate punishment. They believed that knowing your effort is pointless is the most unbearable form of suffering imaginable. But Camus looked at this myth and said something that changed everything. Imagine Sisyphus happy. Not performing happiness, not pretending the boulder is light, not deluding himself that one day it will stay at the top. He knows exactly what is happening. He knows the truth completely, and he walks back down that hill with full consciousness, and he picks up the boulder and he begins again. By his own choice, on his own terms, not because he has to, but because that is the only real act of freedom available to him. That is the most psychologically powerful thing a human being can do. That emptiness you feel is your boulder. The question Camus is placing in front of you right now is whether you are going to walk back up the hill or keep pretending there is no hill at all. Now here is the dark psychology that almost nobody talks about. The absurd does not hit everyone equally. There is a specific psychological profile of the person who feels it most intensely. And when I describe this person, I want you to listen carefully, because this might be the most accurately you have ever been described by anything you have ever watched. This person thinks too deeply about everything. They cannot turn off the analytical part of their mind even when they desperately want to. They feel things more intensely than the people around them, and they learned early on to hide it because the world did not always know what to do with that intensity. This person can see through the surface of things almost automatically. They detect inauthenticity. They notice what is unsaid in a conversation. They read rooms, read people, pick up on emotional undercurrents that most people are completely blind to. This person never fully fit anywhere. Not because they were difficult, but because they could always see the mechanics behind the performance. The social scripts, the unspoken rules, the way most interactions are really just two people playing roles they never consciously chose. And once you can see that, fitting in requires a level of self-betrayal that feels genuinely unbearable. This is the person who grows up feeling like a permanent outsider, like there is a party everyone else was invited to, and they are standing outside the window watching through the glass. Camus would look at this person and say, "You are not cursed, you are awake." The person who never feels the emptiness is not happy. They are asleep, moving through life on autopilot, consuming, reacting, playing their assigned role in a script they never questioned, never truly knowing what it actually feels like to be consciously alive. You are not asleep, and that awareness, as isolating and painful as it sometimes is the beginning of a life that most people will never have the courage to live. The person who runs from the emptiness stays small forever. The person who faces it becomes something different entirely, something stronger, something the world cannot easily break. Because once you have stood inside the void and chosen to move forward anyway, what exactly is left that can frighten you? Nothing. And that is the point.
Let me leave you with this. The emptiness you feel is not a sign that something is wrong with your life. It is a sign that something is awake inside you, something that refuses to be numbed, something that refuses to settle for a half-lived life dressed up in the appearance of success. Camus did not tell you to fix the emptiness. He did not tell you to fill it with certainty or noise or someone else's meaning. He told you to own it completely, to look it directly in the eye without flinching, and to live anyway, harder, deeper, more consciously and more fully than you ever have before. That is revolt. That is the only real answer to the only real question, and it is available to you right now in this exact moment, regardless of how hollow you feel. The boulder is heavy, the hill is real, the gods are watching, and the universe is silent. Walk up the hill anyway, not because it will stay at the top, but because the act of choosing to climb, fully aware of everything, with your eyes open and your feet moving, is the most powerful thing a human being can do. Now, before you leave, if this video reached something real inside you, do not let that feeling disappear the moment you close this tab. That recognition you feel right now, that sense of finally being seen and understood accurately, that is rare. Do not waste it. Here is what I want you to do right now. Subscribe, not because I am asking you to click a button, but because this channel is built for one very specific kind of person. The person who watches all the way to the end. The person who cannot turn off the part of their mind that asks real questions. The person who would rather sit inside a hard truth than live comfortably inside a comfortable lie. Most people scrolled past this video. You stayed. That already tells me exactly who you are. Every single video on this channel is designed for that person, for you. The psychology of power, the mechanics of manipulation, the invisible patterns that control human behavior that almost nobody is willing to name out loud. That is what this channel is built on. And share this video with one person right now. One person you know is quietly carrying this feeling alone. One person who has never had language for what they feel. Give them that language, because the person who needs this most is probably not going to find it on their own. The next video covers the one psychological pattern that makes certain people impossible to destroy, no matter what life throws at them. The dark psychology behind unbreakable inner architecture, the kind that gets forged in pain and comes out the other side, is something the world simply cannot touch. I will see you there.